So today we thought that we're gonna sit down and help you go through how to actually start looking for your vans. This is going to be a 5-part series of how to buy a used van for your van conversion. And today we're going to discuss how to decide on your van specs, what sort of things in the description are turn-offs, and you should definitely not be buying a van if it says that on it.
And then finally, when you actually ring the person who is selling the van, what questions do you need to ask, and is it worth going down to inspect the van for yourself? Or is it a no?
Or is it gimme now, I want it. Here's a van.
Shh.
The first thing you do is search the entire web and try and decide which van you should actually focus on.
Yeah, so you shouldn't just search for, I want a van. Have a look at different makes and models, have an explore around like dealerships and have a look at that, go measure them, feel the space and feel like which ones are more your style and your shape and will fit your build. Which ones do you want?
In this stage, you need to be able to know whether you're looking for a Luton van, whether you're looking for a panel van.
Whether you want a long wheelbase, a medium wheelbase, a small wheelbase, a car.
Also, a good thing to consider, if you're getting a longer wheelbase, that means that you can carry less weight in the back of the van, which is bizarre and annoying, but that's the point of having a driver's license that is only 3.5 tons, as the majority of the UK and Europe is.
Yeah.
You know, Americans, you're very lucky. I think your driver's license is
7.5 tons.
7.5 tons. How is that fair?
So once you figured out what kind of shell of the make and model that you're after, then you need to decide on what kind of specs you want. So you need to decide on how many miles or kilometers the van has done.
Then obviously the engine size is important, especially for a big heavy vehicle that's going to be towing a lot of weight. Then obviously consider how old of a vehicle you actually are going to be getting. So the older the vehicle, the more repairs and problems that it will have. So you have to account that within your budget.
Yeah, speaking of budget, you also need to determine the price of the vehicle that you're after. Now, don't go out and say, well, I want a 2-year-old perfect condition van for £5,000, because that's not going to happen. So you kind of like, once you've got all your other specs in kind of consideration, then you kind of need to go out there and have a look at them and gather a price of about what that will cost. But you also need to consider, how much are you willing to spend? Like, if your specs are saying that a van's going to cost 10, 12, 13,000 pounds and you only have 5, then you need to think about your specs again.
Or on the other hand, you might just have to bump up your budget if you're actually, especially if you're going for a full-time living in a van. That means you might want the van to last 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Then getting a van that has sort of more of a proven
track record
that it lasts that long.
Sprinters, crafters.
Another very important distinction that you should make is whether you want to buy it from a private dealer or a commercial trade dealer. Try both of them, but look at them separately.
Private dealers usually charge a little bit less, so you can usually get a little bit of a better deal, but private dealers might be a little more sketchy on the service history and things like that. So once you've got your specifications nailed down, you know exactly what you want, you now need to search the crackers out of the web. You need to go on all those price comparison websites, put in those details, get notifications on your email, get them scrolling through, look at them, all those adverts. Get them rolling, because that kind of gets you excited. Too much, maybe, sometimes, depends.
It's okay.
So as you're scrolling through all these adverts, there'll be a lot of different price ranges, there'll be a lot of different layouts, a lot of different formats, certain information, and you now have to pick which ones are worth visiting and which ones are just a load of dog doo-doo.
Now the first thing that you'll notice when you're scrolling down is sometimes you have a very nice small price and then you see plus VAT.
These VAT, GST, plus tax, sales tax, I don't know what they call it in other places. But sometimes, and quite often, companies will want to claim this VAT back because they're a company and they can, so they do, and they charge you for it. And you have to make sure when they don't specify, do you not have to pay VAT?
So at first glance, the first turn off is usually the VAT, but if you manage to get past that hurdle...
then there are a few other things that you need to look out for. First thing, pictures. If there's no pictures, don't bother. I don't care how good that price and description is. If there's no pictures, don't bother, because why haven't they put pictures in this day and age?
Given that every phone has a very good camera.
And even if it does have pictures, if they are shocking quality, like the angle's bad, or there's one and it's of the steering wheel, like, don't bother.
Where's the engine? Does it have a back?
Basically, you'll get the idea of what a good advert looks like. You know, you'll have 10 plus pictures, they'll all be good angles, and they'll show what they need to show. The outside, different angles, inside, steering wheel, engine bay, underneath, possibly, depends how good they are.
Now, I would say that sometimes seeing a sort of a big dent on the side of the van has been a turn-off for us personally, because we personally don't really want to deal with the repair of that.
But for you, you know, if your budget is on the lower end, or you don't mind that kind of like visual
aesthetic
damage, if it's not a big thing for you, then you can go ahead. And quite often things with like big dents and stuff, usually their price is lower because not a lot of people are interested in it.
Just make sure that any sort of dent like that is not actually causing some sort of structural damage, or it hasn't been in a crash, which should be described in the description. Now, when looking at the description, obviously in the description is where a lot of red flags can pop up.
Yeah, some people literally write it in all caps without any paragraphing or any full stops, which
really annoys me.
I don't understand. And quite often they'll say, you know, everything is good, it's fine, this runs, no problems, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's not a turn off, but just be aware that they are trying to sell you a van. If there's one line saying, van all good, 7,800 or near.
If it has no description, or basically has a useless piece of information in the description, then I would say
bother.
run away.
Some other things turned off for us was if they didn't mention anything about the service history, or if it didn't have any. And the other major thing that for us, and I think for a lot of people, good vans go quickly. The van that we bought, this van here, it was only for sale for 2 days, and when we contacted him after 2 days, there had already been like quite a lot of people, I think 10 people who were interested.
We saw some vans that had been on the market for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And when we went to see them,
you could tell why.
You get a feeling.
Go with your gut. If you don't feel like, if you're not 100% confident of you actually wanting to spend this amount of money on something, don't bother. There'll be plenty of vans. Trust me. Don't get emotional. Don't get attached to one. Don't start naming them. There are plenty of vans. There are plenty of vans out there. One more thing that you can check beforehand, if you have the registration number, you can check the MOT history. Go on the government website, I'll link it down below. You basically put in the registration and it will produce the MOT history, everything that it's failed on, everything that has an advisory, so you can see what's been replaced or what the MOT says should need to be replaced.
Even if things have been fixed, it can actually tell you a lot about how the van's been driven. If it's a 5-year-old van and it's already had suspension changed and other, things that probably take rather a long time to actually break, that can actually tell you that it's been carrying a lot of weight or something like that.
Or been driven badly.
Yeah, so it's actually very good to check that before you ring. So now that the ad is all good and everything's checked out and you're interested in actually making contact with the seller, how do you actually go about making contact?
Hi, can I have your van, please?
When you actually ring and you make contact with Mars, there are a few questions that you must ask. And you also need to understand that this call is really to establish how genuine the seller is. So that is why a lot of the questions that you ask are actually to do with what's been already written on the advert.
So we have the list of questions here. So you ring up the seller and you'll say, hi, I'm interested in the van for sale. And they'll say one of two things. They'll either say, okay, what do you need to know? Or they'll say, which van?
Which is actually key, because if they happen to say that they're a private seller on the advert, but they ask which van, there's a chance that they have a few vans for sale, which could mean that they are actually a trader.
So you ask them, how long have they had the van? So you know they may have had it since brand new, which is good. They know everything that's been done, may have only had it a couple of months.
Next, very important with vans, is to ask what the van has actually been used for. So what you're looking out for is whether they've driven it on the motorway or whether they've driven it around town with a lot of stop-starts.
Yeah.
Obviously, motorway driving, good MPG, less of wear and tear, lots of stop-starts will knacker everything. If the seller says the van has been used for deliveries, establish what kind of deliveries, long range, short range, what kind of product they're actually transporting. If it's glass, they usually put glass only on one side. That's very heavy. That's not very good for the suspension, so consider that. If it's mattresses, it's okay.
Nice and soft and fluffy.
Yeah. Pillows, fine. Bubble wrap, great. But also it's important to note that usually with traders, they don't actually know anything much about the van, which is something we found that was rather annoying, because you want to know how the van has lived but at that point, and they keep saying, well, I'll go check in our notes, essentially. So it's not ideal. Then ask about the service history, even if it says it on the advert. If the advert says full service history, still ask. Does the vehicle come with a full service history? If yes, perfect, okay. And is it available as well?
Do you know where it is? Ask them what kind of things have been replaced recently that they have done. Has it had new tyres, new brakes, new something in the engine? Ask them what has been done recently so you know what won't need to be done immediately.
And there's 2 questions about the miles that you need to ask. One is, how many miles has the vehicle done total? Now, that's usually said on the advert, but it's very important for you to ask again, because we have had different answers in the past. And the second one is, how many miles have you personally as the owner actually put on it?
So I mentioned before, if you have the registration, you can check the MOT, but if they haven't given the registration, maybe you can ask, can I have the registration so I can check the MOT? If they don't give it to you on the basis that they don't really want you knowing the registration for you to check the MOT, does that really sound like a trustworthy person to sell it to you?
And then finally, why are they selling the vehicle and how much are they selling it for?
Obviously, the price of how much they're selling it for should be displayed on the price, but again, we've had different answers from what's displayed on websites and what they've told us, both higher and lower.
Yeah, sometimes they may ask, where did you see the advert from? Now, that's actually quite a suspicious question, because some people advertise the same vehicle on different platforms, such as eBay or AutoTrade. And because of the different fees that those platforms give, they actually may put a different price.
So you've asked all these questions, you've got them written down, and you're writing the answers down as you're on the phone with them. And if everything sounds okay, like it's matching what was written in the description of the advert, but if you feel like they're, a decent fit, then you could go and say, okay, well, thank you for that, and I'm interested in coming to see the van. When can I come and see it? And you always want to say as soon as possible. You always want to see it as soon as possible, because like I said, good vans go quickly, and you don't want to risk someone else coming and taking a van if that van was the perfect one for you.
So now that we have a van viewing booked, next video we're going to take you through how to inspect the exterior of a van and whether it is actually a good fit for you, and very, very importantly, good fit for a van conversion. Go to our website for our new merch, join us on Patreon for exclusive discounts and content, and remember to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon so you never miss a video.
Hello, I'm calling about the van for sale.
Hello, yeah, what about it?
How long have you owned it?
Couple of weeks, I just found this out the road and just decided to put it up for sale.